All right, here we go. We're going to restore a Siku Ford Granada station wagon, little die-cast car. And I had one like this when I was a kid. But it was yellow and it wasn't a police car. Or I guess it's like the fire chief's car. I think it's a cool little station wagon. It's a little European station wagon made in Germany. And yeah. Rolls nice. These things are pretty well built. I think I remember anytime we go to KB store in the mall when I was younger, I'd I always try to convince my parents to buy me something cool. And KB always had like Tamikas and Sikus and things that maybe weren't as readily available at most stores. Here we drilled out the posts, so we're jacking the frame off. Good pilot holes to put the dashboard and the interior in. I think we're going to leave these wheels in here because they're riveted in place anyway. The windshield is a weird thing. It pops right out like that. I think we're going to leave the trunk lid in. Not going to take it out. Going to get rid of this stuff. Going to turn it into a regular station wagon, not into the fire chief's car. I like this guy because it didn't have a back seat. The seats were just folded down. It's like a sport utility vehicle for all ages, man. Here we are going to drill out the rivet post, centered it in the vise, put it inside of a little bath wash, old washcloth, so that I don't scratch it up or dent it up or anything. Here we are sizing out our drill bit. Make sure we get the right drill bit. Don't want to drill too big of a hole, but also don't want to use too small of a bit. Use too small of a bit, end up having to do it a couple times. So here I am sizing it out. And I currently have a cold, so I'm sniffling and stuff, and I apologize for that. You know how voiceover work is. I feel like I should be a voice actor in a cartoon. JK. So we only got one rivet on this guy. Kind of set the drill there. Let the weight of the drill be gravity, and don't need to push down on it too hard to mess it all up. And I had to give it a few tries because trying to get it right. So it looks like I'm blasting it really hard, but really it's just that the weight of the drill is, it's a heavy old Black & Decker drill. So we're letting that do most of the work for us. But I had a few Siku cars as a kid. The one I had like this was a yellow station wagon. I remember I had a Ford Sierra. I had a Ford Escort. Didn't have a lot of sports cars, just kind of regular cars. I guess I thought when I was a kid, or I knew they were made in Germany because they say it on the bottom, but I must have thought, I thought they were made in Japan or something when I was buying these. So there's all the parts. We're going to clean up the plastic parts. There's the windshield, the interior, and you ready for the dashboard? There it is. Put a little Dawn soap, hot water, just clean up with an old toothbrush. Seemed to work really well. I guess my only complaint about this particular model is that the window unit is made out of is yellow, and I don't know. To me, that always looks kind of silly. Like, why these diecast companies make it a weird color. The wagon's in that jar. We're using lye or caustic soda to strip the paint off. You can't really see it in there. It must be is buried. A couple Matchbox cars in there, a couple Hot Wheels in there. Did a bunch of them at the same time. Oh, I think I saw it. I think I saw the red wagon in there. Rewind it. I think I saw it. Here we're cleaning up the bumpers. I'm going to leave the base kind of rustic because I don't want to take the wheels off, and it doesn't need to be too pretty, but we're going to clean up the grill and the rear bumper. We're going to fill those holes, make it into citizen station wagon. But got to polish it up, get any kind of corrosion off it from the chemicals that we used to strip the paint off. So, yeah. Here we're going to use Tester's sort of modeling putty to fill it in. This was an old tube that I had laying around. It's not more than 10 years old, but I started realizing really quick that I probably should have gone and bought new stuff. And since I did this footage, I bought a tube of Tamiya Putty at Hobbytown, USA in Rockford. But yeah, we're trying to get that in the hole, cleaning it up. You see the little baby hole in the back where there must have been some sort of antenna. I did not see that hole right away, so I didn't fill it in right away. Here it is after sanding it down, after the putty dried. Tried to get it relatively smooth. Inside, I used a piece of masking tape as kind of like when you did Bondo on a car, you'd put the fiberglass mesh under the Bondo so the Bondo would adhere to it and hold to it. Here we're going to hit it with Tamiya fine primer. And now we're going to kind of wet sand it to smooth it out. This probably was about 600 grit 3M automotive sandpaper. Got a little bit damp. You can see the spots where the holes were. But it probably, you saw how much paint I put on. I didn't put a lot on. But we're going to see if we can get it as smooth as possible. You can see a little bit of bare metal in there where we're starting to get down to the grit. Got the sandpaper wet again, you know. And once I was happy with it, I hit it with a second coat of primer, you know. See what the success rate is. I can't believe how many cars I got out of this one can of primer. I think I'm about 15 cars in, at least to the piecing it out stage. All right, so this is one that looks a lot like the Siku that I had as a child. And I treated it well because I liked station wagons as a kid. My parents, of course, drove a station wagon when I was a kid. Here's a real Ford Granada, the European Ford Granada. Now, in America, we had a Ford Granada wagon when I was a kid in the early 1980s, but it did not look like this. This is probably a rear-wheel drive, cool old European car. Here we are, we're laying the first coat of green on there. I made the mistake, and I am flat out saying it was a mistake. I used just standard Tester's enamel, kind of a John Deere green, and you know it looks cool. It's super neon and it pops, and then you know it looks a little darker here in this light, and sitting there drying with some of the other cars that I did. But here I am trying to wet sand a bunch of orange peel out of the paint job. It was. I think I ended up, you know, putting a second coat on before I even wet sanded it because I was like, wow, what, you know, the Tamiya paint doesn't do that. So here I am trying to at least do, maybe not the sides of the car, but the hood and the roof to see if I can kill some of that texture. Either 1500 or 2000 grit 3M automotive sandpaper here. And I think I'm posting this video in March. I've been working on this car since winter break. Just little bits at a time, though. So here we are drilling out the post. Single post vehicle, of course. And we're tapping it for the screw. I think I used, on these first few cars, I used chapstick on the tap because I'd seen in everyone else's videos that they had like kind of lubricated the tap or the hole before they did it. Now here it is with the original Tester's paint on it. It sat on my shelf for a couple weeks at a time before I'd, be working on it again, and I was just really dissatisfied with this paint job. This is even after a bunch of wet sanding, and the problem is I ended up sanding so much that you can see the hood lines where we're almost back down to primer. I don't know whether it was my personal ability to paint it or whatever, so I decided to switch it up with the TS35 Tamiya Paint, which is a kind of a synthetic lacquer, I guess is what it's described as. So I was afraid that the paint wouldn't go on right because I'm painting it over enamel. I did not strip it again. I just painted over the top of it, and it actually, this is the Tamiya Paint. It popped. It looks great. I was like, the world of difference with high quality paint, right? So I'll use the green testers for a rock and roll band stencil that I have for the band that I'm in, and we'll still use that paint. We're not going to get rid of it, but we're not going to use it for any more toys. They have pilot holes for the interior. The glass, the window unit clicks in place. We got a little baby Allen head screw. You can see that the base, like I didn't do a lot of cleanup work on the base. The base wasn't in bad shape, and I also did not I didn't take the wheels off and try to restore it, because the Sikus, if have the kind of stripe on the tire, the white line on the tire, and then the Siku wording. And I didn't want to ruin that because it's, I think Siku makes a cool product, or at least, when I was a kid, they made these really great, a lot of European cars, sports cars and stuff. Doing the taillights, I chromed the taillights and then used a red Sharpie above it. So here's what we started off with, kind of beat the heck the fire chief's car. Here it is after I had kind of disassembled it, just sitting with a bunch of stuff that I had laying around before I did the paint strip. Here's, again, one that looks a lot like the one that I would have played with as a kid. I still have it somewhere. I just didn't really look for it. Just a station wagon. They also made a blue one with a roof rack. And here it is, the finished job. We chromed the end of the axles, I guess the hubcaps as you will, but you can see where the wheels are worn, but I wasn't going to try to fix that stripe, and certainly don't want it gone. Here's the finished car. I painted it green because my parents had a green station wagon when I was a kid. I loved the color green as a kid. I collected green cars all the time, and when I bought this one and it was yellow, well, when I bought the original one it was yellow, I probably as a kid would have very much hoped that it would have been green instead, and the back opens, and there it is. We're done.